We are the change. We are the rising sun. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are dawning. We are the change.
What's really making this whole revolution happen, this sun power revolution, is the fact that solar now has gotten so cheap to manufacture.
According to Our World in Data, solar energy is now the cheapest form of energy, with costs declining by 90% in the last 15 years.
Hi, got a Chevy Equinox EV, and it's got over 300 miles of range. So a few weeks ago, I was able to drive it up to Salem and back. I didn't have to charge anywhere at all the whole trip, and I had plenty for another couple days getting to and from work. I was driving a minivan, and my commute was costing me about $250 to $300 a month, and when I switched to an EV, my electric bill went up by about $30 year over year. So I will take that switch.
We went to Red Rocks. We drove all over the Rocky Mountain West, and she did terrific and never had any trouble finding charging.
Now can actually be used to run your house when the power's out. And the battery in that thing will last for 2 or 3 days on a standard house, running everything. So, if you just have to get the electrician to set it up properly to make that shift.
Hello, my name is Patty Hine. I am the co-president of 350 Eugene and your MC today. This event is co-hosted by 350 Eugene and the Eugene chapter of Third Act Oregon. Third Act Oregon, where are you? They are our sister organization started by Bill McKibben, and we planned this for you today for free. We want to let you know that there are 450 other events happening nationwide. That's amazing, showcasing how the power of the sun can quickly and cheaply accelerate our transition away from dirty fossil fuels and democratize the way we power our society with clean energy. No more billionaires creating scarcity and hoarding finite, non-renewable oil, coal, and gas in their barricaded, militarized fiefdoms. The sun comes up every day, everywhere, for everyone, for free. There's not going to be any wars over sunshine. They can take their weapons and go home. The solar revolution is here to stay, and even the bullies and the dummies in Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon can't stop it. These last 36 months have seen the demand for and installation of solar that has dramatically outpaced projections. And it's replacing fossil fuels that choke the atmosphere and our democracy. This is really good news, and that's why we're here today. Thanks for coming. We have an excellent set of programs planned for you today. Let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect and how it's going to work. Our important keynote is next. Hang on to your hats. Then starting at 1:45, you will rotate through 3 15-minute teach-in sessions. It's kind of like speed dating. There are 5 topics to choose from. So you have to choose 3 sessions from the ABCs of solar installation, the nuts and bolts, the big picture of energy policy from the state of Oregon Energy Department, innovative citizen-led solar projects that you must hear about, and how can we make progress on climate when the democracy is backsliding. Very important. Learn about non-cooperation and resistance. So these are the 5 choices. Pick 3 sessions, start at 1:45. More about that soon. After that, We want you, well, in the middle of that, you'll be able to transit between these teach-ins. There's 5 minutes that you have to do. Visit the organizational tables out here. There are 14 or 15 of them, including Beyond Toxics, Better Eugene Springfield Transportation, Breach Collective, Interfaith Earth Keepers, Firefighters for Safety, Ethics, and Ecology, Fossil Free Eugene, and more. You also can visit Scott's table, the Tsunami Books table, and he has Bill McKibben's book, Here Comes the Sun, special for you today. After the teach-ins, I want you to return promptly at 2:45 right here for an inspirational musical closing and an organized send-off of a march with banners and art to the Ferry Street Bridge with a group photo, hats, parasols. We have a lot of parasols. Do you see the yellow parasol over here at the stage? We have 20 some that we want to share. There's one right here. Stand up to it. We made these parasols in a lovely art building. We want everybody to take one at least out to the bridge this afternoon. Let me ground you in this place and time. People have made their homes here in this valley and the greater Cascadia bioregion for over 12,000 years. A verdant place between volcanoes and the Pacific Ocean. In 1440, they witnessed Mount St. Helens erupt. Bet you didn't know it was 1440. Mount Mazama, now Crater Lake, 7,700 years ago, and they saw the last of the Ice Age floods 12,000 years ago, all accompanied by massive recurring forest fires that still scar our rainforest trees today. This land was not empty. In 1491, 60 million people lived here on this continent, slightly less than Europe at the time. This area was Salmon Nation until contact with Europeans devastated indigenous communities with disease and killed them by the millions across the landscape. In a few decades, thousands of years of history for Native people were overpowered by greed and ignorance. Lands were stolen and people were violently removed from their ancestral homes. This legacy of colonization and extermination endures today. Facing this truth and teaching it as part of our history is important. This profound strength of such people in the face of unimaginable adversity, people who are still practicing their traditional ways all around us today, deserves our deepest reverence. This is what resiliency looks like, and we have much to learn from their wise ways. We live in perilous times today. This 240 plus year old democratic republic has a long storied history, sometimes heroic and often violent. Today, we are at a crossroads. We face multiple global, accelerating, overlapping social and environmental crises. The crises are, the sixth great extinction, the biodiversity crisis, the genocidal wars, and their cousin, famine, testosterone-charged reckless billionaires and their friendly fascist leaders, the unthinkable threat of nuclear war, and our quickly narrowing time frame to alter our course. You could be excused for a little despair. A little. But don't stay there. There is a revolution afoot, a decided recent shift. One really, really big good thing is happening. There's been a rapid recent surge of broadly supported clean energy will take the bite out of both climate and the authoritarian crises. That's why we're here today. That's what we want you to get inspired to do. Learn what you need to do, take action, attend the teach-ins, be sure and follow the schedule, and I'll meet you back here after Rabbi Ruhi has her songs and inspiring speech. Thank you everybody for join me in welcoming Rabbi Ruhi to the stage.
All right, friends, way to bring the sun out. Please sing with me. Some of you know this song. It's by good friends of mine, Rabbi Shoshana Friedman and Yotam Schachter. We're going to modify the words a little bit as you catch on. Sing along. The sun is rising, and so are we. sun is rising, and so are we. You can sing the "and so are we" part at least. The sun is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. No, you're clapping for yourselves.
For you, too.
So about 12 years ago, I was in DC for a small faith-based practice run for the Great March for Climate Action, which was in spring of 2014. And I went with a group of friends with whom I had worked as environmental educators in the Connecticut Berkshires. Anybody from Connecticut? Let's hear it for the Connecticut Berkshires. And we knew how to have a good time. One of my friends had brought a really large blow-up globe, and as we marched towards the White House, we were passing the globe over our heads and singing, "We've got the whole world in our hands, we've got the whole world in our hands." And one of the organizers scolded us and told us to be quiet, saying, "The climate crisis is serious. Show some respect for how somber and urgent this moment is." Which I would say, like, in a nutshell, is one of the reasons I moved to Eugene, Oregon. Because we know better out here. We know that joy is necessary to the movement. There is a lot that the big polluters and the corporations and the fascist leaders, that the forces of empire can take away from us, but we do not have to give them our joy. So I am so grateful to Bill McKibben and the folks at Third Act for calling on us to celebrate, in this perhaps most counterintuitive of times, the clean energy revolution and the incredible progress of wind and solar. Bill has pointed out that no matter what nonsense our federal government is doing in rolling back green energy investments and slashing hundreds of thousands of jobs in this sector, there is no stopping solar. Folks in Australia, folks in Europe, folks in the global south are looking at this nonsense and are smart enough to learn from our mistakes. They are not going to go down this road. 90% of new power being installed worldwide right now is solar. More people are employed right now worldwide by the clean energy sector than by fossil fuels. The state of California was powered by 100% clean energy for more than 100 days in the past year. And solar was the biggest source of energy in the European Union last month. It is the cheapest, most readily deployable energy available. It's not hoardable. It's dispatched daily for free to everybody everywhere. And of course, there are still overlapping crises. Our federal government is hoping that by doing the policy equivalent of plugging their ears and saying, "La, la, 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 I can't hear you, you're not bothering me," they can alternative fax climate change away. They can't. More and more people are going to die because of extreme heat, which better access to clean energy would solve. Oh, they don't want me to talk about this. I'm going to say it again. More and more people. I think I might hit that button. Oh, Sorry, I'm getting too excited. It's unplugging the mic. More and more people are going to die because of extreme heat, which better access to clean energy would solve. And our government is denying that access to us. More and more people are going to migrate for the sake of their health to leave places that have become unlivable because of climate change. And not only do our current legal standards of what qualifies as a refugee or asylum seeker do not include climate risks, even if they did, our government has accelerated deportation of legal immigrants.
Shame.
In fact, on August 28th in Western Washington, a wildland firefighter who was actively on duty fighting the Bear Gulch wildfire was unlawfully detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Their case is still being argued by Innovation Law Lab. It's outrageous. The climate movement must be a pro-immigration movement. Our government is slashing funding for almost everything but military and turning the military on our own communities. The climate movement must be a peace and justice movement because you know what? Climate collaboration knows no borders, and fascists know that. For too long, we've allowed and colluded with the conception that climate activists are self-righteous, organic buying, electrical vehicle driving rich people. And I love the electric vehicles. This is not against electric vehicles. But too often the climate movement has ignored or sidelined the voices from the most frontline communities who are impacted by climate change. And this moment demands that we do better, that we be willing to show up in humility and take direction from the long-term survivors of environmental injustice who live the details of this struggle every single day. It's a lot. It is a lot. The US right now is making itself economically irrelevant by trying to prevent the sun from rising, by cutting promised investments in clean energy and stopping clean energy infrastructure already in the works. And there is so much to grieve. We might be grieving the illusions of the US as a force for good in the world. We might be grieving, we must grieve the people who are already dead because of the climate crisis. The ecological biomes that will be forever altered. So much about what we call home is changing. And even if you grew up in Eugene and aren't a climate refugee, you might be grieving the Eugene climate of your youth, unalterably different. Let's not look away from that. Let's not ignore that grief. To do so would, in effect, to behave ourselves as climate deniers. It is so important to feel the pain of what is already lost. The rage at how many obstacles have been put in our way. And it's natural, as Patty said, to feel some despair. But as Rebecca Solnit writes, I respect despair as an emotion, but not as an analysis.
Yeah.
There is still so much to love and celebrate on this good earth, and that's why we have these big, complicated hearts. It's our job to hold the grief, to hold the love, to hold the vision of what could yet be. And there is work that we can do right here, no matter how our federal government is obstructing us. States, cities, and community groups must lead the way. In the city of Eugene, citizen groups are making connections with local and state governments, public utilities, and energy consultants, and local solar contractors to obtain grants to increase the resiliency vital in the face of climate change. You can attend the teach-in called Citizens Amp Up Solar Projects to learn about 2 such innovative solar projects at our local YMCA and the Eugene Airport, of all places. And we can and must tackle how unnecessarily complicated and expensive it is for businesses and residents to access solar in the US. Utilities, states, and cities have onerous regulations that delay, drive up costs, and discourage solar adoption. With Trump's withdrawal of incentives, this is made worse. In the US, solar costs 3 times what it does in Australia, for example. In Germany, people can go down to their equivalent of Best Buy and get solar panels for their balcony, plug them in the same day, and lower their electricity bill by 20%. But these are barriers we can overcome here with policy changes if we demand it. I'm not a solar energy expert or a policymaker. I'm a rabbi, and my expertise as a rabbi is in how memory and community action can, over and over again, create miraculous outcomes. Change doesn't come in a linear way, and it doesn't even come in a rationally predictable way. That's what I make of the mythology of the parting of the Red Sea. Change comes when people step forward into the unknown, into something that seems impossible, and keep moving forward, refusing to be deterred. Somehow a way opens. The sun is rising. Do we have time for another song? So I want to teach you another song. You sing with me? Yeah. Some of you probably know it. It's called We Are the Change. We are the change, repeat. We are the change. We are the rising sun. We are the rising sun. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And we are dawning. And we are dawning. Let's put it together. We are the change. We are the rising sun. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And we are dawning. We are the change. We are the rising sun. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And we are dawning. We are the change. One more time. We are the rising sun. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And we are dawning. We are the change.
Let's give it up for Rabbi Ruhi. She's our local climate champion and super progressive clergy person. Really thrilled to have her here. Be sure and visit the Tikkun Olam table out there. Those people know what they're doing. They're repairing the world. Thank you. So as you can see, it's our time to act. It's not too late. We are dawning. There is an opening. There is an opening for solar and is an opening for democracy. Do you see it? Do you feel it? We are here today. Look around. We are the people we've been waiting for. And we have to do it fast. But these ideas we're going to put into action at every level. So let me tell you what we're doing right now. You've been visiting the tables, I hope. You see Scott out there with Tsunami Books. Where are you, Scott? Okay. Make sure you get a book today. And now let me tell you where the teach-ins are and what they are.
Okay, it looks like it's time to get going. Welcome, and thanks for joining me. My name is Stan Taylor, and I guess I'll start by saying, well, who am I? Right now, I am an organizer. That's what I'm doing with my life. What's my background for organizing? Well, I spent close to a quarter century at Lane Community College teaching political science. That included classes not only in American government, but peace and conflict, a year-long sequence, civil rights and liberties, and environmental politics as part of the mix. I was also bargaining chair for the faculty union for 8 years at Lane, and the chair of the Lane Peace Center for 12 years. And all those things helped me develop skills that I didn't think I was going to use in retirement until Trump got reelected. So I am today the leader of Indivisible Eugene Springfield. You may know that Indivisible National started when Trump was elected the first time, primarily as a political group to deal with institutional politics, so lobbying how to get who you wanted elected. And then Biden got elected, people kind of stepped back, and Trump got reelected, and Indivisible became a major organizing group for the movement nationally. And here in Eugene, we started Indivisible Eugene Springfield in December with 20 members, and now we have 1,000 people on our list. Right? So the growth has just been phenomenal. Right? And when, through that course of early days of Indivisible Eugene Springfield, leadership changed, and I became the leader of the Indivisible Eugene Springfield. That was about 3 weeks before Indivisible National called for major mass rallies across the country. Right? And so my response to that was to call many of the activist groups in Eugene Springfield and invite them over to organize the hands-off rally for April 5th. And we came together on the 18th of March, and on April 5th, we had 3,500 people show up for the rally. And out of that process grew a new organization, a coalition, called the Activist Coalition of Eugene Springfield. And at this point, we have 23 activist organizations that are part of the coalition. Right? And that's the coalition that also organized the No Kings rally on June 14th that had over 10,000 people show up. And we are now organizing for No Kings 2. Put it into your calendars. It's going to be on October 18th, starting at 10 a.m. at the federal courthouse on 8th Street. So put it into your calendars and go tell your friends about it so that we get more people there. Our goal is to build the movement. If you want to know basically what both Indivisible Eugene Springfield's mission is and what ACE's mission is, it's to build a social movement, and I'll just read the mission statement for ACE's. ACE's is a coalition of autonomous organizations committed to resisting authoritarianism and fostering democracy by building a broad, inclusive, lasting, independent social movement in Eugene Springfield based upon racial, social, environmental, economic justice, and accomplished by building networks and coalitions, alliances. And that's the big lesson right now, is we need to call each other in. You know, we've been through periods where we have tried to make it by in our separate organizations, applying for grants, competing with other groups for those grants, and separated into separate silos. But we can't do that anymore, right? We are in a period of time where we need to join together. That doesn't mean assume your organization under the coalition, but it means with the coalition, you can organize things together and accomplish things together that you can't accomplish in your single organization. And the examples of that are the Hands Off Rally and the No Kings Rally, which were far bigger than that Indivisible could have organized on its own. Right? So we need to organize. We need to make that happen. We are, I think it could be asked, why a social movement now? And we've had social movements before. The last 40, 50 years, we've been, this movement and that movement. But now it's different. And that's because we are at an inflection point in history. Right? If you think about the 20th century and into the 21st century, the two major ways politics and society has been organized was under the New Deal, starting with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And then beginning in the 1970s, we moved from New Deal orientation to what's called neoliberalism, or let the market decide and organize society, set the market free. That's international trade, WTO, that level. And that really was transformative, because when you think about the New Deal wasn't only labor, and it wasn't only civil rights. The New Deal at its foundation was economic democracy. And that happened in two ways: labor movement, which gave people a living wage they could work on, but also extraordinarily strong regulations on banking and on monopolies. The conception for Franklin Delano Roosevelt was that you would have people who, if they were part of a labor union, could be independent and make independent decisions. They weren't dependent on something larger than themselves. Or if you were a business, that you were a small independent business with many producers, where you could support yourself through your small business, and where monopolized businesses couldn't exist and couldn't put you out of business. And the idea was a kind of Jeffersonian ideal that if you have independent people that are economically independent, then they have the ability to step forward as citizens and actively engage as citizens. And what happened in the move to neoliberalism is we got moved from being citizens to being consumers. And we've defined ourselves, the general population, and our identity pretty much as consumers for a long period of time. But now that's reached its end. That period of neoliberalism, it's crumbling. And right now we're seeing authoritarian capitalism taking its place, or trying to take its place. Okay? Now the thing about this is, when you reach a period of time where you're moving from one way of organizing society to another, or any kind of systems that you're looking at, when that move takes place, you come to a fractionated zone where everything is contested, everything can be challenged, and where the possibility of what the future is going to be becomes more open. So as the institutions that we've relied on become less reliable, and as this attempt to impose authoritarian capitalism emerges, what's emerging at the same time is the rise of citizen activism. And the idea behind this is to recognize as citizens that the idea of citizenship is that this is a government of the people, and this government, or any government, only exists because you consent to it as a citizen. And so now is the time to reevaluate your consent. We have had a sea change in what government is in this country, and this social contract that we've had has been broken. And now is the time to reconsider whether you're going to consent. And the social movement that's being built is built upon the idea of nonviolent non-cooperation. So what does that mean, non-cooperation? Well, individually, there's lots of things you could be engaged in terms of non-cooperation, things that you do in your lives that you have taken for granted and not examined. Simple one would be thinking about removing yourself from Amazon. All of us can do that. All of us can do that, right? If you do it personally, recognizing all the problems that Amazon is actually engaged in, which include supporting the war in Gaza, supporting surveillance of citizens. Things you would never dream of as what it's doing. your withdrawal can change your life personally, but if you do it and somebody else that you talk to doesn't and somebody else, now you're moving to collective action and the removal of consent through non-cooperation. Right? And there are lots of ways that you can engage in non-cooperation. And that can range from coming to a rally and talking with people at a rally, to moving beyond that to engaging true acts of non-cooperation where you're withdrawing your consent by looking at your own life and figuring out how you're supporting the regime that's in place and stop doing it, to more radical civil disobedience, all nonviolent, all committed to nonviolence, but a social movement for change. And we need that social movement. We are calling you in to that social movement. The theorists on social movements, like Erica Chenoweth, have done studies that show that when you get 3.5% of the population engaged in active civil resistance, not just coming to protests, but organizing your lives towards civil resistance in a consistent way, dedicating yourself to that framework. 3.5% of the population, it's about 12 million people in the United States, is a tipping point. We need to build that movement. At No Kings 2, they got a little over 5 million people to come out for the No Kings 2 rallies nationwide. We're hoping to, make that double this time, right? All right. So we had 10,000 people out for the No Kings rally on June 14th. We're hoping for 15,000 here in Eugene. Right? We want to build the movement and then not just have people come out to the rallies, but begin to be engaged, to join the groups that are engaged in the activism and engage in how those groups are engaged in activism and civil resistance. Right? Build the movement. So that's why I'm here. That's my message.
What would be other examples? I'm thinking of like not paying my income tax.
That's a very heavy example of non-cooperation. Right, but yeah, it's a very good one, right? If you're in labor, if like where you're working a job slowdowns or strikes are forms of non-cooperation. If you're working in government in some form or another, civil service, not carrying out orders that you're told to do, that's another form of civil resistance. If you're, somebody who's in ICE and you don't want to like a National Guard person, and you don't want to do what they're doing, then you don't engage in heavy enforcement on your fellow citizens. They're just not cooperating, right? And finding ways to not cooperate. The person who really pioneered that field is a guy named Gene Sharp. He was involved with the anti-nuclear campaign, and he wrote books that catalog 198 different ways to engage in non-cooperation. So it's there, it's available, and the biggest thing is, I think of it as kind of a matter of conscience, that when we begin to think about who we are as citizens, what ways can we remove our consent and make our life consistent with our values? And then lead from those values as we construct a social movement for justice. And of course, that includes the environmental movement as part of that coalition. If you look at ACEs, we have 350 Eugene as part of the coalition. We have Beyond Toxics as part of the coalition. We have the Interfaith Earth Keepers as part of the coalition. So it's a big portion of the work we do.
There's also a call to not buy anything on the 18th. Oh. I saw on Facebook.
And I think that's a whole other realm, but consumption is a big, since they've turned us into consumers, examining your consumption is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I just happen to have some handouts on ways to boycott Amazon and withdraw.
And I don't know if you aren't yet members of Indivisible.
One other announcement. Third out would like your feedback on the survey form. I realize this is the place.
I'll be able to give sort of the same information. So if any time in the future you have questions, know that you have local access to getting your questions answered, and it's fairly easy for us to answer questions even without necessarily stepping foot on site. But
you mention the 3 companies again?
Yeah. Yes, Energy Design's the name of my company. I'm the general manager. Then we have Newt Loken at Solar Assist. All our names sound familiar. They all sound like the same company, essentially. So Energy Design, we have Solar Assist, and we have Advanced Energy Systems. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, do you have a question back there?
Real quick, do you always have to access the grid with your... Do you always have to...
No. No, so back in the day, half of the systems we built were off-grid. So people who were not connected to the grid. And these sort of solar power systems were the alternative to spending $50,000 to get power brought up to a rural site. Now, 95% of what we do is grid tie, because the grid is just, it's a fairly stable situation here in Oregon, and these systems help pay down the cost of interconnecting with the grid through the process of net metering. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into this. 3 local companies, if you ever have any questions about solar, we're here to answer those questions. I'm supposed to be giving a talk today on the nuts and bolts of these systems, so I brought in literally the nuts and bolts. So this is a standard solar module at this point in time. Somebody pointed out a few minutes ago that even 5-6 years ago, solar panels were about half this size. But this is the go-to size now, typically black aluminum frame, solar cells hermetically sealed in glass, and a 25-year warranty. The idea is that these products go onto a roof or some sort of structure, and they're there without touching them for the next 25 years or more. That's the ideal want. So that would sort of define the ideal solar electric system, is starting with solar panels like this on a roof. They attach to a racking system that's made up of aluminum and stainless steel parts that sort of look like this. For composite roofs, this is flashed into a normal asphalt shingle roof. And then for metal roofs, we use products that look a little bit more like this. So these are attachments that attach to the standing seam, and then the aluminum rails distribute the weight over that metal roof. We're going to see a lot more metal roofs locally.
What about aluminum roofs? That would work on aluminum roof.
For aluminum roofs, typically, we choose not to put solar on those roofs and go on the ground. And a big part of that is that aluminum roofs often have this amazing warranty that came with it. Same with copper roofs, and people want that look and the maintenance of that warranty for a very long time. So we recommend actually keeping the solar off that roof. Let it last for the next 60, 70 years, because it can last that long if properly cared for. But yeah, aluminum's not very common. We do see steel shingles, tile roofs. We have products for attaching to any roof like that, but they can go on the ground and a steel structure. They can go on a pole, which is very common. But I'd say at this point, 75% of our projects are attached to composite roofs with products that look like this.
How much does this weigh?
So over the entire roof, 2.5 pounds per square foot. And we're looking at 300 square feet sometimes, sort of the Oregon average right now. The average keeps going up. So we're going to reach a threshold soon where it can't get any larger than that. But the average in Oregon is 9 kilowatts, and that would produce about 11,000 kilowatt hours a year. So putting that amount of solar, it's about 20 panels, in the sun facing south, it should produce about that amount of power each year. It's about $1,100 worth of electricity currently in EWEB territory at their current rates. So there's 2 ways to connect solar panels to make DC power, which the sun hits these solar cells, it turns it into electricity that feeds out on essentially 2 wires coming out of the backs of these panels. That power gets aggregated with a group, and there's 2 ways to get that power converted into usable energy for a home. One is this giant box that's sitting down here. This is the most common approach to solar across the world. So this is a German company, Fronius, that makes a grid tie solar inverter. And this box does the magic. This is where the squirrels live, that essentially they take the DC power and make complex switching to mimic a wave of AC power. So it's at 12240 volt, same as what our houses run on. And these are constantly monitoring the grid. So as the utility power fluctuates, these are designed to match that and push power out so that it feeds your home first. And if there's not an ask or a call for power in your home, power will then flow out to the neighboring houses, and your EWEB meter, if you're in Eugene, will read that power. Essentially, it reads in both directions. And if you had a ratcheting meter, the old style ratcheting meter, like you were just mimicking there, you would physically see it moving backwards. That was a thing before EWEB moved to all digital meters. So we have string inverters, this giant box that usually sits in a garage or on the side of the house. They can go inside, outside. And then this is the other approach that has been available since maybe 2007. These are micro inverters. This does the squirrel magic under the back of the solar panel. So this is hermetically sealed in plastic and dissipates heat through this device. And this changes the DC power into usable AC power at 240 volt. And it just feeds your normal electrical panel through a breaker. Yeah.
And there's one of those on
each panel. Yeah. So now 25% of our work is microinverters, and this has opened up some amazing opportunities for us because we can use several different smaller roof areas facing different directions, and with microinverters it lets each panel essentially track the sun separately. And as was pointed out earlier, if there's ever an issue with one panel, it doesn't affect the entire solar array or a string of solar panels. It just affects that one panel. And these come with a 25-year warranty. That's super common. If one of these were to go out, there's a light on it that literally just blinks red. And that's how we know it's time to change it out under warranty. We do. So that's the problem. The great thing about string inverters is that we have string inverters that have been on people's homes here in Eugene for 20 plus years now. And if anything ever went wrong with it, it's right in front of me, sitting in the garage. It's easy for me to take it off the wall or make changes to it, put a new one up. And these are ubiquitous across the world. So these manufacturers sell their products everywhere.
If there is something wrong and you sit there, it means the whole string is down.
Often it means that usually there's 2 to 3 strings of solar panels on a roof, and if one panel were completely broken, which is a very rare occurrence, but it could happen, that whole string, so about half the panels would be paused in their power production. You would, yeah, it's discoloration that can happen, and that can be a thing that you can see. Also, all modern solar inverters now are connected with data monitoring, so we connect to your local wireless or through Ethernet if you want everything cabled, and you can have an app on a computer or phone that shows you how much power you're producing in any time. So real-time solar production, and you can compare that with your eWeb bill to make sure that you're getting the power that you paid for.
So why would, I'm rural.
Yeah.
Why would I choose the microinverter versus the string?
If you had just one surface that was facing the sun, facing south or west, ideally, we definitely would not recommend microinverters. So microinverters are best for areas where there's a lot of shading and a lot of different roof angles that we're working on. So we're building smaller groups of solar panels on different roofs. That's the only time we would recommend microinverters. So that's a common approach for those types of roofs. String inverters are best if you just have one direction that you're working from. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the difference in the cost between the micro and string, and which one's more reliable?
Yeah. So reliability is identical at this point in time. The cost difference is a 25% increase in total system costs using microinverters. The warranty, though, on a normal solar inverter is a decade, 10 years. This is 25 years, so they've gotten into the market by really saying, hey, I'll be here for you in 25 years. You know, why would you go for a string inverter when I'll be here in 25 years? So far, we're not seeing a huge increase in the reliability of one technology over another. Not yet, yeah. Enphase is the microinverter manufacturer.
Boy, I love them.
Okay.
Taken away from me, and I'm still pissed off.
Okay, there's a story. Yeah.
If you have a roof, if you don't have a really south-facing roof, it's mostly east, west, and north. Mm-hmm. Or would you only be the solution?
We'd only look at the west-facing roof, ideally. So west is second best, 80% of perfect, because during the summer when we're making the majority of our power, if you're looking at the curve of production annually, summertime production is where it's at for Eugene. And when the sun's setting northwest, essentially, you have a west-facing solar array, you're really taking advantage of that summertime production. So if there's no trees on the west side, we highly recommend a west-facing solar array. And it's very common that we'll put solar panels on a south-facing roof and a west-facing roof. That's a common approach you'll notice around town, definitely. Yeah.
What is the cost now to install solar for an average size home, say like a 1,500 square foot home?
Mm-hmm. Best I could throw out right now is that the number is $2.50 per watt. And the average system size is about 9,000 watts right now. So some of the bid proposals I've sent out the door recently have been just under $20,000. And that is the cash amount before looking at any local utility rebates. So for instance, beginning of 2026, we'll see up to $2,500 available from eWeb for a short period of time for residential installations. EPUD and Lane Electric do not offer solar incentives right now, but they make it very easy to do the paperwork side of things for net metering.
So is the reason for the cost, because that's pretty pricey.
Yeah, $20,000 is, yeah.
Pretty pricey, but is it the permitting that jacks up the price? Because Bill McKibben talks in his book about that. Mm-hmm. It's so much cheaper in Europe and other areas because they don't have the layers of bureaucracy that we do. Is that true?
It's so funny because I see both sides of this. So we have multinationals and out-of-state companies who operate locally. And I've seen the quality of installation that somehow got through the permitting process. And we've been the company called in to do the fixes on those systems. And so I do see that if there's a layer of bureaucracy that is the building permit division is making sure that these systems are installed electrically and structurally correct, there's some benefit to the community because it just protects you from issues in the future. Here in Oregon, permitting and interconnection fees are very small compared to California. So far, I'm not seeing that being the biggest part of the installation. So I think earlier I threw out it's 2/3 of the cost is typically for just the equipment. And then 1/3 is for the labor and the fees for the installation. It's about a 4-day installation often when all's said and done. So you have 3 people on your site for up to 30 hours.
Is there a minimum amount of wattage that you can install? Or?
Yeah, it's about 3,000 watts is the new minimum. And even 10 years ago, that was the average system size. So we've seen a tripling of the average system size in the state of Oregon. Part of that also is that our consumption is going up as we become all electric homes. You had a question back there?
I'm sorry if you've already answered this, but how long generally does it take to amortize that $20,000 investment to get back? That's a good question.
So return on investment in 25 years would be $6,000 on an $18,000 system. Return on investment, at this point, it looks like it's going to be at the 15-year mark is pretty common. So that is looking more like what we saw back in the early 2000s through 2010. A lot of our initial solar adopters were looking at that return on investment timing and saying, you know what, with the ability to help cut my carbon footprint, this makes sense for me. What we see is a 1% to 2% return on investment each year. So that's the number that I would throw out. Yes, that is a very slow payback, but there is no payback on buying anything else that we purchase. This is the only object you would purchase for your home that has a return on investment. It's kind of a weird thing. It's a number that's often asked, but I'm definitely available to answer questions in the future. And thanks so much for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Douglas Bovee, and I'm a volunteer with 350 Eugene. As you've probably heard, we're here celebrating the sun today. And I walk through my life with a couple mantras, they are built into my presentation. So I'm going to say what they are. And they were talked about today. Action is the antidote to despair. And think globally and act locally. So that's what we did in the work that I'm going to share with you here. So we're just out there, a bunch of activists getting together, and our secret agent and undercover agent from the Bay Area, we were fortunate enough to get a bunch of people who came to us in Eugene from the Bay Area, and they brought their activism hats with them. And Jim New was one of those people who was fighting the oilies in the Bay Area. And he came here just full of energy and a brain that works overtime. And he heard that the airport was going to expand. And they were planning that, and they did a feasibility study for the possibility of solar in 2018, and he found that. I mean, it was some great undercover work, really. And what that solar feasibility study showed was that the airport could build a 55-acre solar farm, which the FAA would approve. Because one of the things of solar farms in airports is the problem of glare for when pilots are landing. But they showed with their testing that there was no problem with these sites. And I'm going to show you an overhead view of what I'm talking about. So you see the blue areas here. The blue areas are areas that were identified to be safe for glare. And there's 55 acres of them. Those blue areas total up 55 acres. It's going to be relevant as we move on here. Okay. So the airport staff was on board with the idea, but they needed some help in making it happen. So another member of our team from the Bay Area who came and rescued us and helped us along is behind you, Peter. Peter is, he went to work and he found that in Northern California, in Arcata, McKinleyville, they have an airport. It's called the Redwood Regional Airport. And they have a 7-acre solar farm capable of generating 2.25 megawatts. And they have a big backup battery also, a battery electric storage system. So it's a microgrid. They have an established microgrid at the airport in Arcata. We decided we wanted to copy it, but make it even bigger. So they built it with a variety of resources, financing for about $11 million. So it's not cheap. The microgrid serves the airport, Coast Guard station, and many residents in the area. And soon after it was up and running, there was a live action, there was an earthquake, and it upset the grid, and the microgrid went into action, and over the larger part of a day, until the grid was up and running, they powered 60,000 homes, the Coast Guard station, and the airport. It happened. So we're looking at 55 acres. I'll show you in a bit. So new problem came up. Who had the expertise to find the money for this project? And another member of our team from the Bay Area, Ken Jones, had a contact from California who had experience in seeking the money, Ali DiTrio of Reimagine Power. So 350 hired her team and paid them to apply for an Oregon Department of Energy grant for a follow-up feasibility study. And the woman here could be a member. I mean, I didn't know how to take her off, but I just left her in because she could be a member of this team. Anyway, they went to work and they accomplished it on very short timeline in spring of last year, 2024. And grant was approved for $100,000. So the airport took that money and they hired RS and H were hired to perform the study. So this is a follow-up feasibility study. One was already done, and this is the next sort of step. Phase one of the using the money would, so they realized there was an opportunity for $1 million in a construction grant. So they worked within the constraints of $1 million. And they looked at a phase one construction, and it would be on the top of the terminal only. So I'm going to go back to that picture again. And it's hard to see, but you can see the U up there, or a horseshoe. And right below there's two strips of blue. I wish I had a laser pointer to show it. One of those strips is meant to be the new solar array on the roof of the airport. So the phase one was going to cost around $1 million, top of the terminal only, and with 50 PV panels to produce 50 kilowatts of energy, electricity. Would include a battery electric storage system that could produce 250 kilowatts of energy. And it would include, this system would include the current generator. So that's going to be phase one if eventually we come up with $1 million for construction. So that's, the application is in. We're waiting to find out the results of that yet. Okay, so phase two, which will require raising more money, 3.2 million, would include 150 PV panels and yield 150 kilowatts of energy. And would also include a 600 kilowatt battery electric storage system along with a 1,000 kilowatt diesel generator. And that would max out the roof space, and going back to that previous photograph. Okay. So the next step is, in order for us to get that solar farm on microgrid that we really want, we need a phase 3. And that's kind of our walking charge going forward. Hopefully we won't have to spend another $10,000 to hire somebody for somebody else, but that's what 350 spent $10,000 on Reimagine Power to get that first study done. So our goal is even bigger than the Redwood Airport. We want to use those 55 acres to build a major solar farm with a battery electric storage and a resilience hub. So you probably have heard about resilience hubs. So the airport's a great place for both. And, you know, eventually we're going to have a Cascadia subduction earthquake, and the grid is probably going to go down. This opportunity, this system would keep the airport running and power many homes and be a resilience hub for people to be able to charge up their devices, get water, whatever else they need that a resilience hub can help support. So that's the airport. Now, our team is very active. Jim New's brain never stops. And he heard about our team learned about a new YMCA being built, and we protested their gas-fired heated pool, but we didn't have any success. So they do have a gas-fired heated pool there. But it's a very beautiful structure. It's with a big roof. So we encouraged them as they were building to plan for solar on that big roof and battery backup, and they installed the wiring for a future system. They did that partly because we encouraged them to do that. So meanwhile, Eugene Water and Electric Board built a well in the Amazon Park near the Y, and the power for the well was installed at the new Y, and an emergency hub was created. So it was the water is being pumped by electricity is coming from the Y, and there's a diesel generator there if it fails currently to keep it going. But we want them to put solar on their roof, take advantage of that huge roof they have. So they're applying for that now. Another construction grant application is out, and the process is underway, and they will find out probably in January or so on that as well. So the point being is that 350 Eugene recognized a local opportunity to promote renewable energy through collaboration with existing project stakeholders, such as the City Airport Terminal Expansion Project and the eWeb/YMCA Emergency Hub. So putting the cooperative and necessary partners together, creating a sustainable environment for the Eugene community. So that's what we did. Citizen activists taking action. We did it. It's underway, and we were very instrumental in getting that first feasibility study done. So that's it. Yeah.
Is the rooftop at the airport included in the 55-acre number, or is the 55 acres?
It's there, but it's tiny. It's like 1 acre at most, or I think it's 0.9 acres maybe. Can't remember. Peter, do you remember how many acres on the top of the roof? It's 0.9 is what I'm remembering. Yeah, so not very much. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So do you guys plan, the Y? I'm a member of the Y, and they're talking.
Jim is, and so he had that.
And there's a new Y that they're fundraising for.
Right.
So I'm assuming you would pursue.
Well, we think that's a great idea. And I don't know, we haven't decided if we're going to put any effort into that maneuver, but we've talked about it. Yeah, yes.
We are able to gain a cooperative relationship with the city planning department.
Yeah, yes.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask that question. But, you know, we keep our ears open and we don't hesitate to ask questions. We send emails. And we know some of the players. So, for example, the City of Eugene has a climate action plan. We're often working with them to try to get them to keep going on that climate action plan. That's the kind of work that we do. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you done any work with the schools regarding specifically school buses, which actually can act both in drawing power from the grid as well as acting as backup supply?
So electric school buses is what yeah, we think it's a great idea also. No, we haven't started any work on that, but we think it's a great idea. Tony.
So what is the total amount of money that you need to raise for all of it?
We're guessing I'm guessing between $15 and $20 million. But, and we think that we're going to get the first million, but you know, that's a small part of it.
And so what are your, do you have ideas about how you're going to get the rest?
Yeah, I mean, it's owned by the city of Eugene. The airport is owned by the city of Eugene, so we'll be continuing to work with the city of Eugene. But I mean, it is discouraging right now because so much money is being held up from the Inflation Reduction Act, and there was great opportunities there. Okay.
Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to say the same thing I said to the last group, which is I don't have a song for you, and I do not have the inspiring words of the Rabbi. I do have a lot of data, and we'll share it afterwards, and hopefully that data helps empower you in thinking about kind of where we are and how we use energy, where we're going, and what the opportunities are, because there are many, but especially now it's going to take all of us working together to do what needs to be done. So, okay. I did not fully introduce myself. I'm Edith. I work for the Oregon Department of Energy. I'm the energy policy team lead, so I work with a bunch of other people. We all pay attention to how we use energy, energy policy. We do presentations like this one. This is just so you get a sense of our mission and who we are. I'm not going to read it out. I did in the last meeting, but I was running out of time. So I'm going to skip to the fun stuff. Okay, so I want to start with this. This is a complicated slide, so you have to bear with me when I walk you through it. It's called the Sankey diagram. And here on the left, what it shows us is the energy that we use in Oregon. It shows you how much of it is imported, a lot is imported, how much we produce in state, and how much energy we produce, and then how much electricity we import. Electricity is separated out here because it's really complicated to follow the electrons. So it could be down here, but we moved it up here. And then, and the reason is that when you look at imported electricity, there are so many sources of electricity, right? We have, if I go from top to bottom, we have a little bit of geothermal, we have solar, which is small but growing. We have a bit of nuclear that we import from Washington primarily. We have some wind. We also have some coal. We still import coal for our electricity use. That's phasing out, but it's still in the system right now. We have quite a bit of biomass, hydropower is carbon-free, as many of you know. And then we have natural gas and petroleum. So the imported electricity is primarily those fossil fuels. It's the natural gas and the petroleum. And then a bit of electricity that we import. And then you can see here, all of these sources kind of contribute to electricity, this big red line in the middle. It's a very complicated sector. And then from here, you can see it like move back out into where it goes. So a lot of that petroleum primarily goes to transportation. Then we have kind of a mix going into industry. Generation losses is essentially the technical, like you get losses from where you generate electricity to where you flip on your light switch. That's what that is. Here's residential use, so this is what we use in our homes. Here's what we use in businesses. And then those big transmission lines you see, they essentially, when the electrons go through, they heat up and you lose a bit of the energy as heat. And then at the end here, this is everything we use, kind of all wrapped up in one number. And here's the waste. So we actually have a lot of losses of energy. We're not as efficient as we could be. Some of this is inevitable, but some of this, a lot of this, we could do better on. So this is why when we talk about energy efficiency, it's so important. And at our agency, it's really the starting point when we think about how we clean up our energy. It's first, how do we use less? How do we get more efficient? And then how do we supply it in a clean way? So, okay, that's complicated, but hopefully you all work with me. Bear with me. Okay, this is a much simpler slide that just shows you a different breakdown of how to understand where our energy goes. So about 32% electricity, about 30% direct use fuels, that's like natural gas for heating or propane for heating or for industry. And then transportation is here. So about 36.7% is used by the transportation sector. All right, next slide. So obviously there's a greenhouse gas emissions profile to this use of energy. And you can see here, kind of by sector, how we use energy and what the associated emissions are by sector. So transportation accounts for the biggest source of emissions. Here are the emissions from our homes, from our industries, from businesses, and from agriculture. And on the right, you can see emissions in a different way, so kind of by the source. So how much come from petroleum, from electricity, from natural gas. Other just has a whole bunch of stuff in it. So, I mean, one thing to look at, this starts in 1990 and goes to 2021. The data is always a little bit behind because it takes a while to validate it and get it up to date. But, I mean, essentially, you don't see emissions having gone down very much. If you looked at our kind of economic growth and how much energy we use, we have gotten more efficient, right? So we do emit less carbon per capita or per unit of energy. The problem is that our challenge is to make this go down. We're not there yet. But as I'm about to demonstrate, we have the policies to get us there, and that's a lot of where my work focuses. So I just wanted to point out, EWEB most of you are probably EWEB customers, maybe somebody's Lane Electric Co-op, has a very low carbon emissions profile, and they work really hard at that. You can see here, and these are all Oregon utilities. So here's Pacific Power. Pacific Power, where our coal comes from, they still have a higher emissions mix. Portland General Electric, Idaho Power. Compared to other utilities in the country, we actually have we're pretty good in the electricity sector. It doesn't mean it's going to be a lot of work to decarbonize our electricity sector, but if you have an EV or an electric bike and you plug it in, those electrons that flow are pretty cool. So what we're looking at as a state is how do we use energy today, and how do we meet the goals that we've set as a state? So that top bullet, House Bill 2021, that sets 100% clean electricity goal for our investor-owned utilities. So that's Pacific Power, PGE, and Idaho. And then we have a climate protection program, the second bullet, that sets a goal of reducing our emissions from direct use fuels, so like natural gas and transportation, by 90% by 2050. So these are really ambitious goals. We have an executive order that says economy-wide we have to reduce emissions by 80%. So anything not covered by those first two are covered by the third bullet. But this is not easy. So what we at the legislature asked us at the Oregon Department of Energy to do was to develop an energy strategy that pulls together electricity, fuels, all the pieces that you saw in that noodly diagram. So we did some modeling. We said, okay, if we were to meet our goals, what's the least cost way to do it? And the least cost way to do it is to get much more efficient. So essentially what this slide is showing, I love this slide because this is 2024, and this is how much energy we're using for transportation, for homes, businesses. And then in 2050, we can actually use 22% less if we are really aggressive on reducing energy waste, essentially. A big part of that are electric technologies. So we have to both make electricity clean, but also as it's cleaning up, we need to be transitioning to electric versions of a lot of the things that are direct use today. So things like electric vehicles or electric heat pumps. So this yellow stripe here is as electricity, and a lot of the gray are different fossil fuels. And over time, essentially electricity demand doubles, but we get much more efficient. So this kind of breaks down like where electricity is coming from. I thought folks might be interested here in that. I just will point out that this is east of the Cascades, west of the Cascades. We did it this way because it's hard to build transmission, so we wanted to understand kind of what this looks like. And essentially, I think if we look at just solar, then we see a lot more solar in east of the Cascades. We see a lot more west of the Cascades, and much of that is this orange rooftop solar. So there's a really big role for rooftop solar compared to today. It grows quite a bit. We also end up with a bit of enhanced geothermal. It's not a projection. We don't know if that's a technology that's going to kind of win out, but it looks very promising today. I will also say that we still have some gas in the system. It needs to clean up over time. And it looks like a lot of gas, but this is installed. This is like installations that need to be there, but they wouldn't burn very often. This is essentially, I think of it as like the insurance policy for our electric sector when the sun isn't shining, the wind isn't blowing, hydro is low, and temperatures are extreme. That happens, they're peaker plants. They're even less than peaker plants. They're like reliability. So, I mean, that's what came out of our modeling. Will that be the future? I think in a lot of ways it's up to us, but it also depends a little bit on technologies. Okay, electric cars. This shows you average miles per gallon equivalent today, and shows you where we would be in 2050 if we want to achieve that picture. So much more energy efficient if we switch to electric vehicles, and also just more public transportation, biking, and stuff like that.
Less noise.
Less noise. And then here's how much per capita residential energy use in 2024, so how much we use in our homes. And that also can go down by about half with the right technologies, with things like weatherization. So, so a lot of really exciting potential. I want to end on incentives are still around. Utilities are still offering incentives. These are state incentive programs that are accepting applications. So there's a lot of, it's not an easy time. But I think it's important to look at what's available and think about how we can keep that. And you know, your voices are all important in talking to legislators, in seeking this stuff out. If you have to make an investment in your home, check out what's available. There's a website called HIPPO, H-I-P-P-O, and you can just type in your info, and it'll tell you which incentives you qualify for through your utility, through the state, through other agencies. And I have some links here at the end, and we'll post this. I'm looking to Patty, but I think we can post this.
Is that exactly hippo.gov?
Hippo, oh gosh, you know, I wish I could tell you. If you just type in Hippo Oregon, it like has a purple hippopotamus on it. So are we out of time for some questions? We do, okay. So yeah, so what I actually thought of was, you know, there are lots of ways to get involved. I know that's one of the goals of this whole event really, is like, how do we get involved? So I think one way is to be informed. So these are links to reports that we have. We try to make them, sometimes they're quite long, but they have tables of contents where you can skip around. So if you're interested in buildings or solar or, you know, whatever it is, you should be able to find it. Another is, you know, I feel like the understanding what's happening in the legislature feels really overwhelming. One way that I've approached it, because I'm actually new to working for state government. I've only been in state government for 2 years. So the first time I had to follow bills and track bills, I was like, what? But you can actually go to the legislative website. It's called OLIS, O-L-I-S, and you can find, it's a little hard to navigate, but you can kind of find where you can get email updates, and they have filters, and you can say, I want updates on this topic, and you will get updates on any legislation on that topic that's coming through, and you'll know when there's a hearing, if you want to hear like what other citizens have to say, if you want to submit testimony. I really see just regular citizens submitting testimony all the time. It's really cool. So those are a couple of ways. I mean, there are myriad of other ways. There's schools, there's local government, and all the rest. But hopefully that's helpful. And you know, I think for us, when we get asked the question, what are we doing about all the changes in federal administration? I think what we say is we're doubling down by preparing an energy strategy and saying these things really need to happen because this is the time for state leadership and also to look to our neighbors. We sit next to the world's 5th largest economy, and they're moving forward on the energy transition too. So I think that we need to look at how we hold up our principles, but it's harder. So.
So you show one of the screens was about electrification increases in using vehicles.
Yeah.
And how much of that is like, will the state-owned or city-owned vehicles and buses, is there any change that's going to happen at that level rather than just individuals?
Yeah, well, so one of the things we looked at was reducing what they call reducing vehicle miles traveled, but essentially expanding transportation options. It's up to cities most of the time, so I think the place to be active is like in the city with the city. You know, I biked here on I took the High Street bike lane. It's fantastic, and I feel safe. I take my kids on it. We go to the library now. It's so you know those kinds of changes tend to be local. And are something that we look at and that we work on from kind of an analysis perspective and also pointing to policies from the state level, but we mainly just look to cities to, and hopefully we can also provide incentives.
And we have a very active and good transportation department in the city of Eugene and lots of volunteer committees that you can be on, active transportation, biking, walking. There's a lot of citizen input opportunities that have made all these bike lanes happen, right? And so that's important too.
And I should add that ODOT, we're not the only agency, so the Oregon Department of Transportation also has some incentive programs. So yeah. Okay. So thanks everybody. Thank you.
And we're a nonprofit that teaches people about solar and storage and is there to answer questions. I would love to learn more from you all too. Are you anyone solar adopters already? Oh, hey Newt. Anyone? Yeah, feel free to close that door. Okay. Anybody interested in adding solar to their home? Okay. Anybody interested in adding battery to their home? Okay, great. And then, learn about it, great. And then what utility are you part of? EWEB. EWEB? EPUD. EPUD, me too. Okay, so most folks have EWEB and then EPUD. Any sub-utility customers? Okay, great. Well, I will just kind of jump right into it. Thank you for sharing more about you all. Hi, welcome. What utility is your provider? Just getting to know each other.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara Kellogg?
Yeah. What utility do you have? Are you on EWEB?
Oh, I have Northwest Natural.
Oh, okay, Northwest Natural. Okay, got it.
I do. I have both gas and electric.
Okay.
So I share electric EWEB?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming today. We're going to talk solar here in this room, just the basics here. And then just so that you're aware, there is an installer from Energy Design down on the other side, and he's talking nuts and bolts and is getting more into the technical aspects and also interconnecting to EWEB. We're going to get through the presentation here, and then I'll have some questions for you along the way, but we'll also leave space for questions as well, because we want to get your questions answered. All right, so like I said, I'm with Solar Oregon, and we are a nonprofit that started back in 1979. We are statewide. Our office is in Portland, but we do events all across the state. We do events like this one that are outreach events. We also have virtual webinars and workshops. So if you're interested in any of those, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. Yeah, and we're just excited to chat with you all today about solar. Has anyone heard of a grid-tied system before? Grid-tied system. So it's pretty common in more metro areas to get a grid-tied system, and that means you're still connected to your local utility, as well as having solar. And so this is just a little diagram about grid-tied solar. And so, of course, you'll have your solar panels. Sometimes those are called PV panels or photovoltaic panels. And then they also need another component called an inverter or microinverter. Has anyone heard that term before, except for Newt? He can't answer this. He knows a lot about solar. Yes. You've heard of inverters, microinverters? Yeah, so these little components here, inverters, microinverters, are going to convert the voltage of electricity that's created by your solar panels into AC electricity, which is used by your appliances and outlets in your home. Does anyone live in an older home here? Yeah, so because solar is connecting to your electric panel and providing electricity to that, if you have an older home, you might need to upgrade your panel. So that is something to consider. Does anyone know how long solar panels last? 20 years. Yeah, so 20 to 30 years, and their efficiency can go down, but it doesn't go down very quickly, so they last a good amount of time. Does anyone know how long a typical asphalt roof lasts? Yeah, so if you install panels that last 20 to 30 years on an older roof and then need to update your roof, you would have to uninstall those panels to redo your roof and then reinstall them. So that's also something to keep in mind so that you can match the life of your panels to your roof and avoid that uninstall cost. And then for this typical grid-tied system, once the AC electricity goes to your electrical panel that you may need to update and then can be used by the appliances and outlets in your home. If you don't use all of that electricity you've produced, if you're grid tied, you would actually send that excess electricity out to the grid because you're still connected to the grid. And so when you interconnect in a grid tied system, you get a special utility meter called a bidirectional meter. And that measures the flow of electricity that you produce, send out to the grid, let's say if you don't use it all. And also in times where it's cloudy and we're not producing as much at our home, we can still pull from the grid. So it'll measure that flow of electricity both ways, and you'll see it on your electricity bill. Here in our state, we have a special agreement called net metering that allows you to get credit for that excess electricity that you export out to the grid. And then be able to use that credit when you need to draw from the grid.
Is that when it's going to go down next year?
Yeah, so for EWEB, they're talking about decreasing it here and decreasing that credit rate. So if you have questions about that, I know that energy design is going to be talking about it, but also asking your utility what that will be, because that agreement will be with your utility provider. And net metering rates vary based on your utility provider. So different utilities across the state have different rates for net metering. And then also in California, they've changed their net metering and moved away from that. So if you like net metering and want us to keep it in our state, there's a coalition called Save Oregon Solar that's working to advocate and keep net metering. So join that if you're interested. But yes, there are talks of possibly decreasing that rate for EWEB, but you would want to double check with them just to confirm. No, it's based on, you know, your address, right? Who's your utility provider?
But not all of that lower rate doesn't apply to all the energy you produce.
Yeah. So, and the electricity that you produce, that you use, That's really beneficial because you're using that instead of having to buy it from the utility, and you can see that decrease your billable kilowatt hours and decrease your energy bill. So by producing it right there at home, some advantages of that is reducing your energy bill, sourcing clean renewable energy, and also helping with your energy independence as well. And then this is the inverter, just in case you wanted to see. There's string inverters and also microinverters. They both do work, just depends on the design of your system, and different installers might specialize in a specific type of inverter, and that's the same for the panels. And if you do install a battery, different installers might specialize in different brands. So that's something to keep in mind. We always recommend getting at least a few quotes so you can compare, you know, what the installer is designing for your system. Solar is highly customizable and the designs can vary, so getting a couple quotes is really beneficial so you can compare what those designs are and the costs. So we did talk about you might need to update your electric panel. If you decide to add a battery, you might need to add a second panel called an essential loads panel, and that will basically connect the circuits you decide to back up with your battery to the battery. And then there's also some new options. There are smart panels that might just replace out your old electric panel.
Can you question about when you say what circuits you want to buy?
Yes, so yeah, that's a great question. So folks who decide to pair battery with storage usually ask a couple questions. What do I want to back up and for how long? So commonly backed up items are common room for the lights in that common room and the outlets so people can plug in laptops, phones, and then usually your refrigerator so that you keep your food running, the refrigerator cold. Batteries come in different sizes, just like panels do. The average size solar system in our state is about 8 kW to 9 kW, but that's really going to depend on your consumption at your home and what your goals are with your solar system. Battery sizes can range from all different module sizes, but it's common to see anywhere from 10 to 13.5 for a single battery capacity, and those are measured in kilowatt hours. If someone is experiencing more outages or wants more backup power, having multiple batteries is usually the route they will go. And you can imagine if you wanted to back up your entire home, do you think you could do that with one battery? Yeah, probably not. You probably have enough consumption for that home to keep the lights on in the whole home that you would need a bank of batteries, so multiple batteries. So many people decide to do a partial backup to keep some of those essential things powered, but not the whole home. All right, I want to jump right into questions. Does anyone have questions? We went over the basics very quickly, but I would love to hear, any questions from the audience? Yeah.
What about trees?
Yeah, so to have solar, you need to access the sun, right? And some people have more solar resource depending on how their home is orientated and how much shade they're getting, right? If you are just getting some partial shade, that is something an installer can help you calculate if you're getting enough solar resource using satellite software or coming out on site to check it out. Do you have complete shade over your house?
It's not complete shade, but
Okay.
I am surrounded by a lot of
Trees? Yeah. So that could be something that if you know it's not complete shade, having an installer check it out and see how much solar resource you're getting. Some options for folks who have their main primary residence shaded, they might decide to do ground mounted solar if they have enough land for that, or put it on another building that's on their property. Yeah, but great question.
Can I chime in?
Yes.
So what happens if people don't have sun for a solar system is there are alternatives. So one of them is buy green power through UF. You don't get any net benefit, but the whole system does. You can also emphasize energy efficiency in your home or an electric car. And then there's even community solar, right? Which you're probably going to mention.
Yeah.
where community solar is only available in certain places, but you can, on your bill, you can basically buy into a small portion of a huge array on some school or something. So.
Yeah. And to check out Community Solar, you can go to Oregon Community Solar, that website, and see if there is a project locally that you can be a part of. It's just dependent on what projects are around in the different communities and the availability there. Yeah.
I've heard that Europe, who's converted to solar way ahead of us, they're at the point where their first generation of solar panels are all worn out after the 25 years, and their landfills are filling up with solar panels that can't be recycled or repaired, and they're because you have to go out and buy new ones every 25 years.
Yeah, so great comment there. Panels do last a long time. That's a pretty long lifespan, so that's helpful already in that it lasts 20 to 30 years. Because it is newer here with people who have been early adopters, just starting to get to the point where they're replacing, there are now companies coming up to talk about how are we going to recycle, where are the old panels going to go, and so that is something that is being worked on and where they are going to go. The overall impact, though, compared to other alternatives for energy, everything has a cost, right? But because those panels do last such a long time and you're producing that energy right there on your property, that has some great green benefits. And then the recycling is working to catch up, just like recycling with everything else. And as the technology changes too, I think we're going to see some different options for panels. We've seen the efficiency of panels go up, and the same with batteries. And as that goes up, they last longer, and the costs have been coming down. So TBD on that. It's going to keep moving forward as more people adopt and the need increases for that recycling.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
So some panels will go bad possibly at 20 years. We've had very few that have gone bad, many thousands out there. And the warranty, the power production warranty is for 25 years with a slight degrade, but everything degrades, right? Including us, huh?
Yeah.
And so some panels will still be producing at 30, 35 years. And there is a lot of work being done by, among other things, the National Laboratory, National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado. Unfortunately, their funding has probably just been cut.
Yeah. Yeah, well, local action is still moving forward. I mean, there's people up in Washington working on what recycling is going to look like here locally. So it's just, you know, even though some things might change policy-wise, just continuing to keep things happening that you're passionate about locally is going to be really important. Any other questions? Yes?
Solar panels come in different sizes, right?
Yes, they do. So they come in different sizes, and depending on your installer, they might work with a specific panel size, and they're ranging like 350 to 450 watts per panel right now. So, but as the technology improves, we'll see that change as well.
What is the minimum that you can
Install? That depends on what you're trying to do with your solar. Like I know some folks who just have a couple panels just to power something off grid that they have. They don't need a lot. If you're trying to, you know, power your home, you'll need more panels to do that. And a good way to figure that out is looking at your consumption. So you know how much energy you're consuming, and then you can calculate how many panels you would need if you wanted to offset that. The typical size in our state is about 8 kW to 9 kW, and so that ranges from like 24 to 30 panels, depending on the size. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
My name is Neil Penn. I'm the chair of the Third Act Eugene Chapter Democracy and Voting Committee. And a little bit about Third Act is it was the brainchild of the environmentalist Bill McKibben, who realized that a lot of people reaching retirement age or older have time on their hands. They share a deep concern for the environment and what type of physical planet are they going to leave to their adult children and grandchildren. So as a result of that, we do environmental education. We're involved in lobbying work. Our most successful one was about a year and a half ago, led by Divest Oregon, where $1 billion with a B dollars of state funds were divested from coal and oil, and into more responsible investments. We have a meeting once a month. We also have affiliates that just get our action alerts and follow through with contacting legislators, signing petitions, or becoming informed so they can speak with neighbors.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Best way to get hold of us would be utilizing this card right here.
Yeah, I'm Nancy from the Breach Collective, where we work at the intersection of climate justice and worker justice, supporting community-based organizations and nonprofits that are working for climate justice. We organize and advocate to protect the protest, to support unionization of nonprofits, to fight the fossil fuel companies. In Eugene, we are for electrification, fossil-free Eugene. And we're a small but mighty organization that's entirely privately funded, no government money, never have and never will.
Hello, my name is David Schwartz, and I am tabling here at the Sunday event on behalf of Our Children's Trust, which is a Eugene, Oregon-based nonprofit public interest law firm that represents youth and young people in constitutional climate lawsuits against both state and federal governments. And we are very happy to be here at Sunday and talk to the attendees about our cases, our ongoing litigation in state and federal court, and about environmental issues. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David de la Torre. I am the Fossil Free Eugene Coalition Coordinator. Fossil Free Eugene is a coalition of climate justice, environmental justice, and organizations here in the city of Eugene and Springfield area, advocating for the city to uphold its commitments to its climate goals. And we're here as part of Sunday to continue to promote that work, and also as solar and wind energy are renewable energy sources that are part of the climate future. So thank you so much for stopping by.
So I'm with Extinction Rebellion Eugene, and we are part of a global nonviolent direct action movement that is demanding that the world's governments and the largest corporations that are contributing to the financing and the underwriting of extractive fossil fuel projects begin to change the way they do business. Yeah, obviously we need some huge changes, and the changes that we're seeing now are going in the wrong direction, which is really terrifying at this moment. So what we're doing is trying to get people to come together at events like this, where we can reach out and ask people to join us in actions, out in the streets, come to our meetings, come to help us plan strategically our next step to try to fight the changes that are happening within our government, and the rolling back of not only DEI but also climate targets that corporations were adhering to, or really trying to make this the face of their organization, they're rolling those back, and they have been since Trump was elected. So there are changes happening in many different sectors, on many different levels that are really frightening at this point. So, again, we are a global movement. We have chapters on every continent in the world, that's what we do.
I'm Phil Barnhart, president of the Emerald Valley Electric Vehicle Association, and we are very happy to be at Sunday with a whole bunch of other groups working on renewable energy and climate change. And in this parking lot, there are a bunch of electric vehicles that are on display so that people who don't really know much about electric vehicles yet will know to get them. I will promise you that everyone will be driving electric soon. I can't tell you exactly what year, but it will be soon, because they are vastly superior to gasoline-powered cars, and your grandchildren will survive because we won't be adding more carbon to the air. 40% of Oregon's carbon emissions comes from transportation fuels.
My name is Mel Martin. I'm with OSERA, which stands for the Oregon Coalition for an Environmental Rights Amendment. And what that is putting something explicit into the Oregon Constitution about the fundamental but inherent right to a clean, safe, and healthy environment, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. And what this does, it really clarifies the fact that the government has a heightened duty to ensure that in its decisions that affect the natural resources in Oregon, that it doesn't cause public harm to public safety or health. Again, with the long-term view for how today's actions affect tomorrow's generations. So that's what we're doing, and we are attached to the hip with Our Children's Trust, which is, of course, the law firm that is litigating the similar issue, the right to a healthy environment and stable climate for youth and future generations across the nation. And so that's what we're doing, and I'm very excited to see how we can move the needle along and solve lots of issues and problems systemically, especially for renewable energy.
Aware people who we love at Tsunami Books, of course. They're our bedrock. Finding the Mother Tree was probably the 2023, I think it was an absolute bestseller. Probably #1 in our store. She's an industry person who's come up with the righteous modern view. Very important. She understands the interrelation of all plant life underneath the mother tree, of course. Braiding sweetgrass. I'm going to say that changed my life for 30 days, finishing it. I mean, I just had this feeling of calm and connectedness for a good period, you know? And I think if a person read that more than once, there would be monumental change. It's wonderful. And even the way she writes her paragraphs, they're all about this, close to the same. Each paragraph is almost like a poem. Very interesting style. On tyranny, of course, everybody has copies of it. You know, I think simply reading that book might change American history. And I expect some millions of it has already sold. They sold the first time Trump got elected, and now they're selling again. He has left the country because he's allowed to, but he'll bring him back. This is a very interesting book on Rebecca Solnit, a wonderful essayist and environmentalist, very simple liver in her daily life. Occasionally goes around, to to help people around the world. It mostly writes about it. And a lot of essays. This is about not too late. This came out right before the last election. So there's a couple essays that'll break your heart in there. Because they're seeing the continuum that, of course, stopped, that ended right away. But wonderful book. She just found people all over the country and in fact world, who could see through things. This is the book that 350.org is promoting in a big way. Here comes the son, Bill McKibben. You know, he's been an environmental journalist for forever. He's probably, I assume he's in his 70s now. And that's a very accessible book, hopeful, and talks about, you know, things that are happening. Carbon, Paul Hawken, very important. Paul Hawken may be the most important member of the whole environmental movement, because he became insanely rich in the Back to the Lander days, creating lifetime hand tools. Smith and Hawken. Everybody got the Smith and Hawken catalogs in the old days for the Back to the Landers. And he, as quickly as he made the money, he channeled it into righteous things outside of his hands and purview. He didn't need the power of the money. You know, he needed to spread it around and let other people do things. He bought lots of land all around America that he turned over to other organizations. He had nothing to do with them, just left them on their own. His books are full of hope. He spends his money coordinating the environmental movement worldwide. And this is kind of a little more in-depth view of overview of the whole situation. Yeah. This is probably the most popular new book, The Light Eaters. It's just, we can't keep it stocked, so we just overbought. But again, it's, you know, we've been following this ever since Peter Tompkins and The Secret Life of Plants. You know, that was a book, I think, early 70s, maybe even late 60s, that just went beyond the normal concepts of plants. And this is taking a lot of places. Oh, that's your latest. Yeah, we were lucky. We had 30 signed copies. She had the most immaculate signature. She signed thousands of them, you know, for tipped-in pages. Perfect signature. It was a real gift. But really good essays right up to the minute. And we, you know, we stand to learn.
Probably just search lead and it'll come up.
Very accessible book to you. You don't have to be a genius or anything.
My only sunshine, you have the power to save this place. You leave no poison, no toxic.
All right, if I could have your attention, please. How were those teach-ins? Pretty awesome. I hope you learned some things. I hope you come away with some actions that you can do, and you're more committed than ever to solar power. It's here and it's unstoppable. Right. So at any of our important events that we get together as a community to educate and inspire one another, we want to end with an uplifting, maybe even a little feisty little message. And there's no one better to deliver a feisty message than the Eugene Raging Grannies. These Raging Grannies have been around for, I'm sure, over a decade, maybe 13 years, and they are awesome. And I think I will turn them over to you immediately. Please enjoy them for 2 numbers, and then they'll be followed by another act, and then there'll be instructions about where we go next. So stand by. Let's welcome the Raging Grannies, everybody.
They're on.
Okay, good. Where do you want it?
It doesn't drown out the voice, so back it up. Whatever you say.
We're going. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're gonna pass on the gas, pass out the pumps, say goodbye to Exxon and the other greedy chumps. Leave the oil in the soil, leave the gas in the ground. Let's switch to electric, there's enough to go around. We're gonna spark in the dark, pass out the pumps. Exxon and Mobil can blow it out their rumps. Electric and pass on the gas. Shell, oil, and Chevron can blow it out their
Okay, we're singing this because it's Sunday.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You have the power to save this place. You leave no poison, no toxic waste dumps, just a blush upon my face. You solar panels, develop wind farms, find ways to harness nature's power. We'll be creative to build a new world. Time is now, this is the hour. Because you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You have the power to save this place. You leave no poisons, no toxic waste dumps, just a blush upon my face. We have the sunshine, we have the wave power, we have the wind, we have the rain. Why don't we use them to meet our life's needs in ways that we can sustain? We can!
Thank you. Big round of applause for those raging grannies. Don't they blow your mind? We didn't have it for a long time. And they mean business. Grannies, thank you so very much. We love you very much.
We have a Bill of Rights, you know it gives us civil rights. Love our planet, keep it cool. Do not be a fossil fuel. Do not be a fossil fuel.
Hello. Let's stop burning gasoline.
Keep our planet clean and green. Keep our planet clean and green. You know it gives us civil rights. They protect us from abuse and we can keep that if we fight. If we don't give up, you know we're right. Let's show him that he's wrong. Raging and stand for freedom. Where's the Congress when we need them? Raging and stand for freedom. Come join us in our song. We created, build a new world. By new town and free our free cause. Sunshine, sunshine. You have the power to save this place. You have no poisons, no toxic waste dumps. Just a blush upon my face. We have the sunshine, we have the wave power, we have the wind, we have the rain. Why don't we use them to meet our life's needs in ways that we can sustain? We can! Thank you.
Big round of applause for those raging grannies. Don't they blow your mind?
Lots of Roll the bolts on the door, shut the windows all the time. Pour another drink and turn off the light. There's a cold wind blowing through this old town. Somebody's talking tonight. Oh brother, tell me what to do. Maybe sing for the boys pretty too. Oh brother, after all that we've been through, I'll be out to dry. And it's gold circuit trees, and you see the concrete under fluorescent lights. I've been running all night.